The rain hammered my windshield like bullets as I crouched under the hood of my beat-up Honda, trying to fix the alternator that had been whining for weeks. Laura's voice drifted through our kitchen window, all giggles and breathless whispers. "Work call," she'd said. "At 9 p.m. on a Saturday. Right. I'm Dave Mitchell, 32, IT support for a medical supply company and apparently the world's most gullible husband." "Oh, Christian, you're so bad," Laura's voice carried through the thin walls. My wrench slipped, skinning my knuckles against the engine block. Christian Brennan, her co-worker at the startup downtown. All flash and no substance, driving a Tesla he probably couldn't afford. I'd been fixing things my whole life, cars, computers, other people's problems. But apparently, I couldn't fix my marriage. Inside, Laura was curled on our second-hand couch, phone pressed to her ear like a lifeline. Her Instagram was open on her laptop, perfectly filtered photos of her ambitious entrepreneur life, complete with inspirational quotes about knowing your worth. "Hey, babe," I said, wiping grease on my jeans. "How was work?" She barely glanced up. "Fine." Long day. Christian and I had to stay late on the Morrison project. The Morrison project. Right. I'd heard about that project every night for 2 weeks. Funny how it required so many evening meetings. "I'm grabbing a beer," I announced. She waved dismissively, already back to her phone. In the kitchen, I noticed her purse hanging open on the counter. Her iPhone was charging right there, unlocked. The same phone she'd been whispering into moments ago, but she was still talking in the living room. My stomach dropped. 2 phones. The burner was basic, cheap, hidden under receipts and gum wrappers. I picked it up with trembling fingers. The messages made my blood freeze. "Christian, can't wait to see you tomorrow." Dave still clueless? Laura, completely. "He's so boring, I doubt he'd notice if I disappeared for a week." Christian, poor guy. Good thing you're finally ready to upgrade. Laura, about time. I deserve better than fixing cars and Netflix every night. I scrolled further back. Weeks of this. Months. Plans for secret meetups, jokes about my pathetic job, discussions about her moving in with him after she figured out how to dump the dead weight. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering on the linoleum. "Dave? Everything okay?" Laura called. "Just dropped something," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. I put the phone back exactly where I found it and walked to the living room. Laura was still on her regular phone, probably talking to her best friend Tiffany now, spinning some story about her difficult marriage. "I'm going to Jerry's bar," I said. She didn't even look up. "Whatever." Jerry's Tavern was exactly what you'd expect. Dim lighting, sticky floors, and the kind of honest desperation that comes with last call on a Saturday night. Jerry himself was behind the bar, a former cop who'd traded his badge for a bottle opener after a messy divorce. "You look like someone kicked your dog," Jerry said, sliding a beer across the scarred wooden bar. "Worse. Someone kicked my marriage." I told him everything. The phones, the messages, Christian's smug face every time he picked Laura up for their work meetings. Jerry listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or refilling my glass. "So what's your play?" he asked when I finished. "I don't know. Confront her? Get a lawyer?" Jerry laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Dave, you're thinking like a victim. These people humiliated you, made you a joke. You want justice? You gotta get creative." He was right. Laura wanted excitement. Christian wanted to play games. Time to give them exactly what they asked for. Over the next week, I became a different person. The old Dave would have confronted Laura directly, probably ended up apologizing somehow for driving her away. The new Dave was patient, methodical, and absolutely furious. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her social media posts with subtle digs at our marriage, photos of Christian's Tesla parked outside our house during his project meetings with Laura. Even Mrs. Patterson proved useful. Turned out she'd been photographing everyone's comings and goings for months, convinced the neighborhood was going downhill. That woman's been sneaking around like a common tramp, Mrs. Patterson confided over her fence. And that fancy car boy? I seen him here Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday last week alone. I also discovered something interesting about Christian's lifestyle. A little digging revealed his Tesla was leased, his downtown apartment was shared with 2 roommates, and his successful entrepreneur image was built on credit cards and borrowed money. Laura thought she was upgrading, but she was actually trading down. The first move was subtle. Christian had been posting gym selfies, trying to look tough for his social media followers. I knew he'd eventually show up at Murphy's boxing club, where I'd been working out for 3 years. Sure enough, the following Tuesday, he walked in with Laura. "Hey, Dave!" Laura's voice was artificially bright. "Look who wanted to try your little gym." Christian strutted around like he owned the place, making comments about the authentic atmosphere. When he suggested sparring, I couldn't resist. "Sure, Christian. Let's see what you've got." It wasn't even close. 3 years of regular training versus his Instagram fitness routine. I didn't hurt him, just embarrassed him. Quick footwork, light taps that barely counted as hits, but enough to make him look foolish in front of the other guys. "Good workout," I said afterward, not even breathing hard while Christian gasped for air. "Maybe stick to the treadmill next time." Laura was mortified, but she couldn't say anything without revealing why she cared so much about Christian's dignity. That night, I heard her on the burner phone. "He humiliated you on purpose. Dave's not that good at anything." Time for phase 2. Christian's social media presence was his weak point. Everything was about image, about appearing successful and desirable. I created a few anonymous accounts and started asking innocent questions on his posts. "Nice Tesla. Is that the lease special, or did you buy it outright? Love the apartment tour. How do you afford downtown rent on a startup salary? Wow, dinner at Romano's again. Must be nice having such generous friends." Within days, other people started asking similar questions. Christian's carefully constructed image began cracking under scrutiny. But I was just getting started. Laura's job was at a small tech startup run by Monica Rivera, a no-nonsense woman who'd built her company from nothing. I'd met Monica at a few company parties. She valued honesty and hard work above everything else. Through some careful research, I discovered Laura had been exaggerating her qualifications on her resume. Her marketing degree was actually an unfinished certificate program. Her successful campaign management experience was mostly unpaid internships. An anonymous email to HR with documentation took care of that problem. "I can't believe they fired me," Laura raged that evening, pacing our living room like a caged animal. Monica said something about inconsistencies in my background check. What does that even mean? I made appropriate sympathetic noises while internally celebrating. One down. Christian's downfall came next. His lease agreement specifically prohibited subletting, but those roommates I'd discovered were paying him rent under the table. A simple anonymous tip to his landlord, with photos of the multiple residents, solved that problem too. "This is insane," Laura complained to Tiffany during one of their phone calls. "First my job, now Christian's getting evicted. It's like someone's targeting us. If only she knew." But the real revelation came when I finally figured out Tiffany's role in all this. Laura's best friend owned a small boutique downtown, one of those trendy places that sold overpriced clothes to women trying to look successful. I'd never liked Tiffany. She had this way of making backhanded comments that left you feeling small without quite knowing why. Digging deeper into Laura's burner phone history, I found something interesting. Tiffany hadn't just been supporting Laura's affair, she'd been encouraging it, pushing Laura to leave me, even suggesting Christian as the perfect upgrade. But why? What did Tiffany gain from destroying my marriage? The answer came from an unexpected source. Jerry was dating a woman named Linda, who worked at the bank where Tiffany had her business accounts. That boutique's in serious trouble. Linda confided during a casual conversation. Behind on rent, maxed out credit lines, the whole thing. Word is, she's been looking for a wealthy husband to bail her out. Suddenly, everything clicked. Tiffany wasn't helping Laura find happiness. She was eliminating competition. With Laura out of the picture, chasing after the broke Christian, Tiffany would have a clear shot at me and what she assumed were my assets. The irony was delicious. Tiffany thought I was some kind of catch, worth manipulating her best friend's marriage to obtain. If only she knew I was just a regular guy with a regular job and a beat-up Honda. But she was about to find out exactly what kind of man she'd been messing with. The annual Millfield Community Festival was the perfect stage for my finale. The whole town would be there, including Laura, Christian, and Tiffany. I'd volunteered to help with the sound system. My technical background made me the obvious choice. The festival was held in Riverside Park, with food trucks, local bands, and a main stage where the mayor would give his usual speech about community values. I made sure to test the microphone system thoroughly that morning. Laura spent the day flirting openly with Christian, no longer caring who saw them together. She'd moved out of our house the previous week, claiming she needed space to find herself. Really, she'd moved in with Tiffany, who was playing the supportive friend while secretly plotting her next move. I waited until the crowd was biggest, right after the local high school band finished their set. Mayor Williams was introducing the next act when I casually walked onto the stage. "Excuse me, Mayor," I said, taking the microphone. "I have something important to share with everyone." The crowd quieted, probably expecting some boring announcement about parking or cleanup volunteers. "My name's Dave Mitchell, and I want to talk to you about betrayal." Laura's face went white. Christian started pushing through the crowd, probably trying to reach the stage. Tiffany just stood there, frozen. 3 months ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair, I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the park's sound system. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is how her best friend orchestrated the whole thing. I pulled out my phone and started reading selected text messages, projected onto the screen behind me thanks to the festival's AV setup. Here's Laura telling Christian how boring and pathetic her husband is. Here's Christian bragging about stealing another man's wife. And here's the really good part. Here's Tiffany encouraging Laura to leave her marriage so Tiffany could make a play for the abandoned husband. The crowd was dead silent now. Phones were out, recording everything. This would be all over social media within minutes. "But wait, there's more," I announced like a game show host. Christian, the successful entrepreneur, is actually broke and homeless as of yesterday. Laura, the marketing genius, got fired for lying on her resume, and Tiffany, the supportive friend, is about to lose her business because she can't pay her bills. Christian finally reached the stage, his face red with rage. "You can't do this. This is harassment." "Is it harassment to tell the truth?" I asked the crowd. "Is it harassment to expose people who lie, cheat, and manipulate others?" The crowd was on my side now. I could feel their energy, their approval. These were working people, honest people who understood betrayal and appreciated justice. Laura tried to grab the microphone, but I stepped away smoothly. "Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Laura Mitchell, who promised to love and honor me, then spent months making me a laughingstock while planning her escape to a better life." "Dave, please," Laura begged, tears streaming down her face. "Don't do this." "Don't do what?" "Don't tell people what kind of person you really are. Don't let them know how you really feel about this community, these people you think are beneath you." I turned back to the crowd. "Laura here thinks Millfield is a dead-end town full of losers. She can't wait to leave us all behind for the big city. Well, good news, Laura. You're free to go any time." The crowd was getting restless now, muttering among themselves. Laura was sobbing, Christian was shouting threats, and Tiffany was trying to sneak away through the crowd. "And Tiffany!" I called out, stopping her escape. "Don't forget to tell everyone how you sabotaged your best friend's marriage because you thought her husband had money. How's that working out for you?" Security was moving toward the stage now, but I was almost finished anyway. "The truth is," I said, my voice dropping to a conversational level that somehow carried perfectly through the sound system, "I'm not rich, I'm not special, and I'm definitely not worth destroying a friendship over. I'm just a regular guy who believed in loyalty, honesty, and keeping your word. Apparently, that makes me the weird one." I set the microphone down gently and walked off the stage. The crowd parted to let me through, and I could hear scattered applause starting behind me. Christian tried to follow me, grabbing my shoulder as I reached the parking lot. "You think you're so smart? You just destroyed your own reputation too." I turned to face him calmly. "Christian, my reputation was already destroyed. You and Laura made sure of that months ago. The difference is now everyone knows the truth." He swung at me, a wild, desperate punch that I easily avoided. He stumbled, off balance, and fell against his precious Tesla. The car alarm started wailing, adding a perfect soundtrack to his humiliation. "Stay away from me," I said quietly. "Stay away from my house, stay away from my friends, and stay away from my life. Find somewhere else to be pathetic." I walked to my beat-up Honda and drove away, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 lives and one very confused town festival. The video went viral within hours. "Millfield man exposes cheating wife at town festival," racked up millions of views across multiple platforms. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Apparently, my story resonated with people who'd experienced similar betrayals. Laura, Christian, and Tiffany became internet famous for all the wrong reasons. Laura's social media accounts were flooded with criticism. Christian's business prospects evaporated as potential clients discovered his reputation for dishonesty. Tiffany's boutique closed within 2 weeks as customers abandoned her in droves. But the real victory wasn't their public humiliation. It was my own transformation. I'd spent years being the reliable, boring husband who fixed things and never complained. I'd accepted being taken for granted, dismissed, and ultimately betrayed. The old Dave would have suffered in silence, maybe gotten drunk and felt sorry for himself. The new Dave had learned something valuable. Sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules entirely. Jerry offered me a partnership in the bar, which I accepted. Mrs. Patterson became my unlikely ally, keeping me informed about neighborhood gossip and Laura's occasional attempts to return to the house. The guys at the boxing gym treated me like a legend. 6 months later, Laura tried to reconcile. She showed up at my door on a rainy Tuesday night, looking tired and defeated. "I made a mistake," she said. "I was confused, scared of getting older without accomplishing anything. I never meant to hurt you." I looked at her standing there in the rain and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering love. Just emptiness where she used to matter. "Laura, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Actually, you made hundreds of choices over several months. Each text message, each lie, each time you looked me in the eye and pretended to love me, those were all choices." "But I do love you," she insisted. "I always did. I just got caught up in the excitement of something new." "No," I said firmly. "You loved the security I provided. You loved having someone reliable to fall back on while you explored your options. That's not the same thing. Dave, please. I'll do anything to fix this." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "The thing is, Laura, I'm not broken anymore. I don't need fixing. For the first time in years, I actually like who I am. I'm not giving that up to go back to being your safety net." She tried to argue, to negotiate, to promise changes that we both knew she'd never make. Finally, she left, and I watched her walk away without feeling any urge to call her back. Christian had moved back in with his parents in another state. Tiffany had declared bankruptcy and left town entirely. The 3 conspirators had scattered like roaches when the lights came on, each blaming the others for their collective downfall. As for me, I kept the house, kept my job, and kept my newfound self-respect. I started dating again, Women who appreciated honesty and loyalty instead of seeing them as weaknesses to exploit. The town festival became an annual reminder of the day I stopped being a victim and started being myself. People still talked about it, usually with approval. I'd become a local legend, the man who refused to suffer in silence. Sometimes I wondered if I'd gone too far, if public humiliation was too harsh a punishment for adultery and manipulation. Then I remembered Laura's text messages, her casual cruelty, her complete disregard for my feelings. No, I decided. Some people only learn when the consequences are public and permanent. Some people only change their behavior when everyone is watching. I'd given them exactly what they deserved. The truth, delivered at the worst possible moment, in front of the people whose opinions mattered most. And if that made me the villain in their story, I could live with that. After all, every good story needs a villain. I was just tired of being the fool.